It's been a roller coaster ride recently for the Edmonton Oilers as they battle for playoff position. Brett Holden of Locked On Oilers is here to talk about the highs and the lows and what to expect the rest of the way. All that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thanks for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. It is my pleasure to welcome back a familiar face to Locked On NHL viewers and a familiar voice for listeners, the host of Locked On Edmonton Oilers, Brett Holden. And Brett, what's with this roller coaster ride recently for this team?
Oh, yeah. Roller coaster ride is certainly a way to put it. You get the highs of beating the Boston Bruins at home, being the first team to do it after trailing after 20, trailing after 40, heck, allowing the first goal of the game. And then you go in Toronto and you just go, it was ugly. And it kind of started off the same way that the Boston Bruins game started off as well, where the Oilers kind of not necessarily dominated against the Toronto Maple Leafs to start off the game, but they weren't out of the game. Where against the Boston Bruins, they attacked, they were dominant in the first couple of minutes, and then one of the first shots of the game gets through Stuart Skinner. And it's one of those shots that are goals that you want back as a goaltender. You sit there and you go, as a fan or as somebody who's watching this team, you go, if only you get that one save, this would be a different story. And that seemed to be the theme throughout the rest of not only the game against Toronto, but so far the season for the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, the inconsistency, especially on defense, does seem to be a bit of a problem. How do the moves that the Oilers made near the trade deadline, how are they working out, and how did they hope to address some of those issues?
Yeah, I'm trying to look at my notes here because Matthias Ekholm, I'm finding my notes from the last time I talked about this defense, which is quite often. Matthias Ekholm has been an absolute gem for the Edmonton Oilers, and more specifically for Evan Bouchard. So far over the last couple of games for the Edmonton Oilers with Matthias Ekholm, that pairing has basically become the Edmonton Oilers' top pairing over the last couple of weeks couple of weeks, I guess. And not necessarily you see the numbers and they're always out there against the top guys on the opposition. That's still Nurse and CC4 right now. But the elevation of the minutes for both Evan Bouchard and Matthias Ekholm and consistently playing top minutes has been fantastic, to the point where Evan Bouchard has been able to step out of his comfort zone of sorts. He was able to score his first goal in 43 games, just being able to jump more into plays and also be more physical in his back end. So since the acquisition of Matthias Ekholm, the Edmonton Oilers have also deployed the 12-6 as opposed to the 11-7 forward to defense that they normally run, with Philip Broberg actually being the healthy scratch and Vincent Desharnais being the player who's playing more and more and more, the big 6'7" defenseman who can move better than most people think. Unfortunately, got a slash on the hand from John Tavares the other day, or last night, or on Saturday, against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and John Tavares did get a fine for that. But just those little things that the Edmonton Oilers haven't been able to do. And I'm not saying necessarily, get a fine for the other team, but the root of that came from a battle out front, being hard to play against in his own end. And that has been the new theme for the Edmonton Oilers since Matthias Ekholm has come into this team.
And he's a +7 in 5 games. And when you take into consideration giving up 7 goals to Toronto, that's pretty darn impressive.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And what's been very impressive for Oilers fans is seeing the offensive uptick that you see from Matthias Ekholm. You hear the defensive notes on this guy, and you know what you're getting out of him. But then he scored his first goal only 22 seconds after the Leafs scored their goal in the Toronto Maple Leafs game. He first game with the Edmonton Oilers, he got an assist. So he's consistently being better in his own end and making the Oilers better in their own end, but also making the offensive touches for the Edmonton Oilers that a lot of people didn't expect.
Yeah, no question about that. You mentioned offensive touches. Let's talk a little Connor McDavid. What can this guy not do? Because the numbers just keep looking better and better. Do you have an estimate? Like, what is your educated guess as to how many points he'll finish this season with?
Points, I could see over 160. I could see over 160. 150 seems obviously it's right there. But down the stretch for the Edmonton Oilers, the way that Connor McDavid consistently turns it on late in the season, you see just the bunches of points in the last 20 games of his season each and every year. I could see him just continuing that, and especially with how good this Oilers team has been. Heck, sometimes the Oilers beat the Boston Bruins without a point from Connor McDavid. The Edmonton Oilers still have to play the Anaheim Ducks, the San Jose Sharks. Sorry, guys, but that's going to be a pretty nasty game for Connor McDavid if when they face off. I can genuinely see upwards of over 160 points, which is disgusting.
Yeah, you're getting into Gretzky and Phil Esposito territory, and pretty impressive numbers for sure. Mm-hmm. So look, the Oilers in a very big dogfight for playoff position right now. What are the keys for this team? You got about 15, 16 games left. What do they need to do better in order to nail down a playoff spot and maybe even home ice advantage in that first round?
Well, the first thing had been that play in the Edmonton Oilers' own zone, in their D zone, and that has been steadily getting better, and they can't get away from that. Yes, they have upgraded and been better and progressed, but it needs to continue to develop and progress for the Edmonton Oilers. That would be the first thing. But it starts in goal for the Edmonton Oilers. Stuart Skinner has played really well, and especially, again, I keep referencing that Boston Bruins game, but that was a real statement win for the Edmonton Oilers, as we've seen all across the social media talking about the Edmonton Oilers and the Boston Bruins, and this was a big win. And the reason why the Edmonton Oilers won is, yes, Stuart Skinner did allow that weak goal at the start and the end of the first period, but after that, he went 18 for 18, stopped 26 shots of the 28 fired towards him in that game, and he was steady. And the rest of the team in front of him looked like a totally different team. The game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, Stuart Skinner was playing really good hockey until that giveaway from Ryan McLeod. And then it all started to unfold for the Edmonton Oilers, or unravel for the Edmonton Oilers. When he is playing well, when the Oilers goaltending is playing well, the players in front of them are playing well. So it all starts from the back going up to, and again, that's not necessarily a real revelation. If you've watched this Edmonton Oilers team, you know that, but it's still the underlying note still here. And Jack Campbell had a really good stretch in February and late January. Now he's unfortunately fallen back to his early season form, and it's unfortunate to see right now. So the Oilers are riding Skinner, but hopefully the Oilers can get form out of both of them down the stretch here.
Well, we'll see. That is obviously going to be very important. Fingers crossed, as I see you doing. So that's very understandable. Brett, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they can find the podcast, where they can find you on social media, and when you'll be here on this show?
Yes, you can find me personally at The Real Holden 40. That's 40. That includes Twitter, Instagram. Heck, I'm pretty sure I have my Spotify playlist at The Real Holden 40. Really good music over there. Don't worry about me. You don't care about me. You care about the Oilers. And you can find Locked On Oilers at Locked On Oilers on Twitter, exactly how it sounds. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube yet, what are you doing? You get to see vintage Match You Get On jerseys. Yes, I have a Match You Get On jersey. Got it at a locker room sale. Chill out, everybody. But you can also find me on Locked On NHL on Tuesdays for Western Conference Tuesdays with me and Dane from Locked On Stars. We always have fun. We're tired, though. We always talked about trades, and now there's no trades to talk about. So I guess we're going to have to talk about the product on the ice now.
There you go. A new challenge, right?
Yeah.
For the stretch drive. Brett, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you've got to try a Built Bar. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate, and they come in unbelievable flavors like peanut butter brownie, churro, coconut almond, or my personal favorite, cookies and cream. And not just is the taste great, but listen to these macros. Each bar averages just 130 calories and just 4 grams of sugar while packing a whopping 17 grams of protein. Now, you could still go to Built.com and have Built Bars ordered and delivered directly to your door, but now you could pick them up in person if you need some right away. Just go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club to get Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market. You can thank me later.